This episode of Talking Timbers is brought to you by Appalachian Log Structures, Honest Abe Log Homes, Stone Mill Log and Timber Homes, and Timberhaven Log and Timber Homes.
With me today is David McCluney. He's with Morris Farms Cypress Sawmill. That's based out of Baxley, Georgia. David's been around for 37 years. That is the business. We're going to talk about ceiling, solid wood siding, and wall paneling options. You know, you've got your logs, you have your timbers, and then you have to either wrap them in something. We prefer no sheetrock because most of the people in our world are in the sawmill business. We like lots of wood, and certainly you can speak to that. There's a lot of things to think about when you're talking tongue and groove. A lot of people just think it's 1x6 tongue and groove, but there are different profiles of that. There's matching existing profiles. There's custom profiles. And then, of course, you got to finish this stuff. So if you want to talk about that a little bit, David, that would be great.
Okay. I appreciate that intro. What we normally do at a home show, you're able to walk into the booth and actually see some of these profiles. It's kind of hard today. I did set up my office as a home show booth, believe it or not, but it's just, I don't have a fisheye lens, so you can't see all the different patterns. But we have some old timey patterns you would have seen that your grandparents used, the old Pickwick or Knotty Pine. But we do it with cypress. Almost everything that we do is in cypress. But the tongue groove, they have this, the latest beadboard has been, just terribly popular for the last almost 20 years now. It's just come into its own. And now we're seeing a lot of interest in what they call a nickel gap pattern. And we've done that in 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch. There's just so many variations of paneling.
Now, is that nickel gap? Is that a shiplap? Is it a tongue and groove, or is it a face-to-face?
We can do it either way, actually. We can do it as a shiplap, where you just lay one over the other and just leave a small channel.
Like a nickel.
In the boards, but there's, about a nickel gap. And then also we do it tongue and groove. And when you do a tongue and groove, you actually can then blind nail it and not see any of the nails. So if you want to do it similar to you would tongue and groove, then that would be the option.
And really, when you're talking about all these different coverings, you know, when you're looking at a log home, obviously the outside walls are solid log, so your interior walls are already wood. But then you have your interior walls and in some cases your ceiling. So those are all considerations to think about. And then when you get to a timber frame home, same thing. The outside is usually a siding of some sort, some kind of wall application. And then in the interior, again, pretty much free to whatever you want to do. So you need to really think about that style, the look you're going for, whether it be a beadboard or a tongue and groove. I mean, so there's cost, I'm sure, that are in all of that, like everything, I guess.
Well, especially today, I think a lot of people are running into sticker shock. They go and buy 2x4 pine at the local building supply that they bought last summer, and they look at the price today and they about get floored. But that's just part of the nature of the beast, if you will, because our economy is changing, and there's not a lot that we can do about that. But let me tell you about this too. You know, to supplement what Eric has been saying. We do timbers and beams, things of that nature. We've actually made material for people to have a standard stick-built house, but they want that log home look on the inside. Exactly. Or they want to go outside and maybe put on the back wall where there's a patio, put the half log siding. They might want to build a pergola using solid wood, solid cypress, something durable that's going to last.
That's great. Talk about those timbers, and really, what about the sawing? Like when you talk about your specific company, you deal with cypress predominantly. Tell us where you're sourcing that type of timber.
Well, naturally, most sawmills. I can't speak for other sawmills, but my experience. I'm 72 now, so I've been around the sawmill business for a while. You've got a limit of how far you can take logs, anywhere from 75 to 100. You're pushing it if you get up to 125 miles. It's just the cost of getting those logs there. Whereas you can haul a load of lumber on a tractor trailer, and that same amount of weight in kiln-dried lumber versus the green logs with all the airspace on that log trailer, it's going to take, I would say in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 tractor trailer loads of logs to get that one tractor trailer load of lumber.
That's in cans or blanks or whatever.
That's it.
Yeah, big difference there. And I think, when you talk about costs, I don't really necessarily think of that stuff, and probably most people don't either, but that's part of it. That's why in your particular case in Baxley, you have your sawmill. You're able to source the cypress where that grows, right? It's got to be within those radiuses you're talking about. So you're able to do that and go to market reasonably well, from what I gather.
That's true. And being in the center of Southeast Georgia, we're approximately 90 miles directly down to the coast at Brunswick. And we're 120 miles from Macon. Well, Dublin, Georgia is only 75 miles north, but the Florida line is only 100 miles away.
Oh, there you go.
Within just a 100-mile radius, we have a tremendous amount of wetlands, if you will, areas where cypress grows. And a lot of to be quite frank with you, all of the cypress we get that comes into our mill, it is actually produced from private ownership. It's lands that are owned by farmers, timber companies, things of that nature. There's no public land like the Okefenokee Swamp. We're not getting any timber out of national forest or state forest even.
Well, that's interesting. Well, we're getting towards the end of this, but I want to hear a little bit specifically about your business, the sawmill, maybe a little background info on that whole process. And you got a couple of minutes, and then we'll let you get back to it. And again, I want to thank you for supplying us with this information today. Appreciate it.
And my first comment is I'd like to say that I really appreciate you hosting this event. It gives us an opportunity to reach a wider range of people. But more about my mill. My mill, we started in 1983 with just a small little ground mill. This mill was literally sitting on the ground. We had to dig the sawdust out from underneath the saw each day because it would build up so high we just could not get it out of there. I won't say we have a modern sawmill today, but it's 6 feet off the ground, giving us plenty of opportunities for cleanup without having to
shut down,
have to dig. And the production is a lot higher than it was when we started today. And one of the best things that we invested in was our planer. Our planer has given us options because we do cut our own knives. We can make all these different patterns. And if you have an existing property and you need a specific pattern, this is something we can do. You can send us a sample or a template, a drawing with measurements, and we can take and cut those knives to match the pattern that you already have. We've done this several times over the last 37 years, if you will.
Yeah.
And of course, we ship everywhere. Now, freight, as you well know, can get awful expensive too. But if you're in our range, we keep our prices below what I guess they would consider a market price, because we feel like we're just trying to facilitate the movement of the lumber that we produce. Your siding, your paneling, decking, ceiling material, whatever it is that you need. If you need hand split cypress shakes for your roof or even siding, we make the taper saw and shingles. There's just, what do you need for your house? We'll do our best to attempt to make it for you. Also, talking about Eric mentioned earlier, the questions. Call us, email us, text us. We answer questions. We do our very best to answer all of your questions. It's hard for me to remember what specific questions you might ask. Well, how am I going to get it here? We'll figure out a way to get the lumber to you. Some other questions. Will this lumber be kiln-dried? The bulk of our lumber is kiln-dried. I will say our timbers, for the most part, for the last 37 years, we never kiln-dry the timber, but cypress is so stable that it's not proved to be a real issue. It doesn't twist and warp like some other woods. We don't get the amount of checking as some other woods that are on the market. And they're all good woods, everything that you use. And checking is not a structural issue. Sometimes it's more aesthetic. And that's where cypress, of course, it takes and holds stains very well. And anybody that does contact us and needs more information besides just hearing me kind of expound on it, we send a little pamphlet out that tells you all these things. We even include nailing instructions for like the paneling, tongue and groove, nailing instructions for the siding, etc. So we hopefully can help you in those areas.
Well, it sounds like, David, you've got the resources there to really help people with their projects. And I encourage everyone here, if you're interested in hearing more about Cypress and more about Morris Farms Cypress Sawmill, please go to their booth. David, I want to thank you today for all your time and your knowledge sharing with people. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Sir, you too.
You bet.